Guys, hope y'all are ready to have a blessed day. I'm sitting here in my tack room about to saddle some horses, but I just wanted to share some encouragement and some inspiration with you guys. Something that might help you with your horses, but might also help you just as much, if not more, in your own life. So you can see I got a bunch of tack in this tack room. There's a bunch of bridles behind me. I got a bunch more bridles over here you can't see. Some saddles. Everything behind me is equipment that I use on my horses. But I think the most important thing that I put on my horse is the bit that I put in their mouth. Some people ask me, well, why do you ride a horse with a bit and not a halter? Good question. In fact, I developed a halter that we have sold around the world. And I don't even ride my horses 100% of the time with that particular halter that I created. I designed that halter to be a stepping stone in the beginning to use in a manner that can help you develop more control in your horse and lead you to a higher level of training or progress with your horse. So I guess if somebody asked me, do you ride your horse with a bit? I would say yes. And if they said, well, why? I would say, because my Bible tells me to. And I'll get to that in just a little bit. James chapter 3, verse 3 specifically tells me to put a bit in a horse's mouth to control his whole body. Well, here's one example of a bit. This happens to be a ring snaffle bit. Probably the bit that I have used the most in my life because I have spent the majority of my life starting young horses. So this is a bit that we use early on. And this to me is the bit that I use for my foundation. I'm trying to build frame of mind and feel in my horse through his body, through his mind with this bit. Okay? This bit doesn't produce leverage on my horse's head, mouth, jaw. So for me to communicate a message through this bit, I have to know the best way, not the right way, but maybe the best way to use it. And it varies from horse to horse. But understanding that when I put this bit in my horse's mouth, this piece right here, the mouthpiece, rests right on top of my horse's tongue. So really what I'm trying to do is control my horse's tongue. Well, some interesting facts about the horse's tongue. It's been noted as the gateway to the horse's neck, shoulders, and the entire front of the horse. Okay? The tongue is extremely sensitive and detects pain, heat, pressure, and taste. Now, I'm specifically talking about the horse, but the human tongue can relate to that in every aspect as well. Okay? We use our tongue to speak. We use our tongue to swallow. For the horse, it's the largest muscle in the horse's head and the upper part of the neck. If I jump back up here where I said the tongue is extremely sensitive and detects pain, heat, pressure, and taste. Okay? That is relative to the human as well. You need your tongue for taste. Your tongue can detect pressure very easily. Your tongue can detect heat. You ever put something really hot in your mouth and burnt your tongue? That liquid doesn't have to be in your mouth for very long for you to be able to detect how hot it is. Okay? And pain. Have you ever bit your tongue? Literally. Now, I'm not talking about figuratively, but literally bit your tongue with your teeth. Maybe you bit through your tongue. Maybe you cut your tongue. Maybe you didn't bite through your tongue where it didn't bleed, but it still hurt like crazy. So it can very easily detect pain. But interestingly enough, it can also very easily inflict pain. Okay? You want to be good at building control in a horse. You need to understand how a horse uses their tongue, much like we do. When a horse gets tight, the muscles in their body get tight, their tongue will retract, much like when they swallow. Okay, when a horse relaxes, their tongue moves forward. When you see a horse licking his lips and his tongue's moving forward, that's a really good sign. Okay, because that horse has to relax those muscles in order for that to happen. So you're trying to get your horse to think about what you're offering in a manner where they can relax while they do it and don't just get mad or uptight or anxious while you're doing it. So the goal is to not just get a horse to do something well, but to get him to do something well and be relaxed at the same time. The relax attribute incorporates more of the emotional and the mental side of the horse. If all I'm concerned about is what the body of the horse is doing, that's basically just called force. And you can force a horse to do stuff. You can force humans to do stuff. Doesn't mean that they're happy. It doesn't mean that if you give them the chance to get even, they won't. It doesn't mean they love what they're doing. It means they're there doing it because they don't have a choice. Okay? So I'm going to read a little bit here in my Bible to you guys. I'm going to start in Proverbs 26, and I'll go through this pretty quick, but it's very interesting how it speaks. This entire proverb speaks about the tongue and what it can do. Starts out with, like snow in summer or rain in harvest, honor is not fitting for a fool. Like a fluttering sparrow or a darting swallow, an undeserved curse does not come to rest. An undeserved curse does not come to rest. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the backs of fools. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, or he will be wise in his own eyes. Sending a message by the hands of a fool is like cutting off one's feet or drinking poison. Sending a message by the hands of a fool is like cutting off one's feet or drinking poison. Like the useless legs of one who is lame is a proverb in the mouth of a fool. Like tying a stone in a sling is the giving of honor to a fool. Like a thorn bush in a drunkard's hand is a proverb in the mouth of a fool. Like an archer who wounds at random is one who hires a fool or any passerby. As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. As a dog returns to its vomit, so gossipers repeat their gossip. Do you see a person wise in their own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for them. A person that thinks they're wise in their own eyes, this says there's more hope for a fool than for a person that thinks they're wise in their own eyes. That's interesting. A sluggard says, there's a lion in the road, a fierce lion roaming the streets. As a door turns on its hinges, so a sluggard turns on his bed. A sluggard buries his hand in the dish, but he is too lazy to bring it back to his mouth. A sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 people who answer discreetly. What if I said it this way? A sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 people who answers discreetly. The 7 people who answer discreetly versus the person that has no reservation in voicing their own opinion. Like one who grabs a stray dog by the ears is someone who rushes into a quarrel not their own. Have you ever been around a stray dog? Most of the time they're pretty, what's the word I want to use? Wild would be a good word. Feral. If you took that dog and you ran up to it and you grabbed that dog by the ears, what do you think you would do? Probably before you even got clamped down on both ears, he would probably already be biting the tar out of you. Like one who grabs a stray dog by the ears is someone who rushes into a quarrel not their own. Is someone who butts into somebody else's business. Wouldn't be very smart to grab a stray dog by the ears. Well, it's not very smart to butt into somebody else's business. Like a maniac shooting flaming arrows of death is one who deceives their neighbor and says, I was only joking. Have you ever said something sarcastic and justified it with those 4 words, I was only joking? No, you weren't. No, you weren't. Or you would have never said it. But those 4 words are your justification or your rationale for the flaming arrow that you threw at that person, and you use those 4 words to just try to get out of it. Without wood, a fire goes out. Without a gossip, a quarrel dies down. If people would just learn to stop running their mouth and be quiet, most of the quarrels, if not all of them, would probably just go away. As charcoal to embers and as wood to fire, so is a quarrelsome person for kindling strife. A quarrelsome person loves to gossip. A quarrelsome person loves to stir up crap or strife in other people's lives. The words of a gossip are like choice morsels. Think about some food that you love to eat. Maybe your favorite food. And when you eat that favorite food, do you put it in your mouth and then instantly spit it out? No, you chew it up, you relish on the flavor and the taste, and then you swallow it so you can get it down into your belly, into your innermost being. The words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down in the inmost parts. Those words that you speak when you're just running your mouth, stirring up crap in other people's lives just for the sheer fun of it, they don't just, it's not something to take lightly, okay? They go down into the innermost parts. Like a coating of silver dross on earthenware are fervent lips with an evil heart. Enemies disguise themselves with their lips, but in their hearts they harbor deceit. Enemies disguise themselves with their lips, but in their hearts they harbor deceit. Though their speech is charming, do not believe them, for 7 abominations fill their hearts. Their malice, let me read that one again. Though their speech is charming, do not believe them, for 7 abominations fill their hearts. The number 7 in the Bible is often referred to as the number of completion. For 7 abominations fill their hearts, for their hearts are completely filled with abominations. That's a warming thought. Their malice may be concealed by deception, but their wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. In verse 28, this entire proverb is summed up right here. A lying tongue hates those it hurts, and a flattering mouth works ruin. A lying tongue hates those that it speaks out upon, that it hurts. And a flattering mouth, a mouth that just keeps doing this. You're constantly running your mouth, spewing your opinion when it isn't asked for. Works ruin. Maybe we need to bridle ourselves. And that brings us over here to chapter 3 in the book of James, starting with verse 3. Says, when we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Okay, when you put a bit in a horse's mouth, you apply pressure to that mouth through that bit in a manner to try to get the rest of that horse's body to go the direction that you're trying to get it to go. Now, I can look at this and focus on just the two words whole animal, and I can think of it from the physical side of my horse. I'm just physically trying to control my horse. But if I am a little more specific and I just focus on the word whole, okay, there's more than just the physical side of your horse. There's the mental side, the emotional side, the spiritual side, as well as the physical side. Those 4 aspects of my horse make up the whole animal. I'm trying to learn how to use this to not just control one aspect of my horse, but to learn to control all 4. Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Okay? Or take ships as an example. Although they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. You don't need a big rudder to steer a big ship. You don't need a big bit to steer a horse either. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. One spark, one little bitty spark can burn hundreds of thousands of acres. We've had some pretty big fires roll through southern Kansas in the last 6 years. Burn a lot of acres. There was just a big fire not too long ago, maybe a month ago or so, in West Texas. Burned more acres down there in that one fire than the 2 fires here in Kansas burned. Start with a small spark. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body and sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. The cool thing about the tongue of a horse is it doesn't do all that. It doesn't do all that. The tongue of a horse is very, very important to that horse being able to survive. And when we think about the mouthpiece of our bit resting right on top of that horse's tongue, that tongue is extremely important for us to be able to communicate our ideas and our messages to our horse in order to build some control and some direction in that horse. But the horse's tongue does not corrupt their whole body. They're not hanging out in their pens together gossiping. Okay, they don't use their tongue for that. That's reserved for us humans. Us humans are so gifted in that area. Okay, the gift of the horse is not their tongue. The gift of the horse is their speed and their strength. Well, the gift of the human is not supposed to be their tongue. However, that's what humans tend to use the most, is their tongue. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. Sets the whole course of one's life on fire. All kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, sea creatures are being tamed and have been tamed by mankind. But get this, but no human being can tame the tongue. No human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poisons. It's a restless evil full of deadly poisons. Well, I mean, we should just cut it out. Figuratively, yeah, but I don't know, literally maybe some of us should. Now, I'm not promoting that, but think about that. You know, I've watched movies, and I promise you it's happened around the world, but I've seen movies that Hollywood has produced where in that movie somebody said something they shouldn't have said, and some evil man cut that person's tongue out. Well, they won't be running their mouth no more. I guess they won't be using their tongue for that anymore because they don't have it anymore. But there's hope. I'm not saying you should just literally cut it out. Figuratively, yes. Literally, no. Here's the hope. With the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and with it we curse human beings who've been made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth come praise and cursing. My brothers and sisters, this should not be. Can both fresh water and salt water flow from the same spring? My brothers and sisters, can a fig tree bear olives or a grapevine bear figs? Neither can a salt spring produce fresh water. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in humility that comes from wisdom. Wisdom. Okay, here's the interesting part. Not all wisdom is the same. Okay? But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Because that wisdom, this says, such wisdom does not come down from heaven. That wisdom does not come from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. So I guess we better figure out the wisdom we're speaking from, because it might not be heavenly wisdom, it might be earthly wisdom, and those two things are completely different. So I guess we should all probably decide what's going to define wisdom for us. What are we going to use as our blueprint for wisdom and be the defining factor in how we share that wisdom? Is it just going to be the circumstances in your life experiences, that makes up your wisdom? All of that wisdom is earthly. And according to this, it leads to bitter envy and selfish ambition, which is earthly wisdom, unspiritual wisdom, and demonic wisdom. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. Ouch. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is, first of all, pure. Then peace-loving. So here's your heavenly wisdom right here. It's first of all pure. Then it's peace-loving. Considerate. It's considerate of others. Submissive. It submits to authority. I kind of would say the person that just runs their mouth all the time doesn't submit their tongue to anyone or anything. It simply boasts of autonomy, and I have the freedom to say whatever I want. Therefore, I choose to unleash my opinion whenever I feel like it. Heavenly wisdom is submissive. So, probably need to figure out what's going to define our heavenly wisdom, or the wisdom we want to be influenced by, and figure out how to submit to that authority. Heavenly wisdom is full of mercy, full of mercy, not full of hate, not full of selfish ambition, not full of bitterness, not full of, let's just throw it under this word, gossip. Heavenly wisdom is good fruit. Good fruit. Heavenly wisdom is impartial. impartial. If you guys don't know what impartial is, Google it. And sincere. Heavenly wisdom is sincere. I know people that run their mouth all the time and love to throw their opinion out there, even when it's not asked for. And unfortunately, they are very sincere about doing it. Okay? So I guess we probably ought to be a little bit more specific about what we're sincere about. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. Again, this is the final verse in James chapter 3, which that chapter is titled in my NIV Bible, Taming the Tongue. Peacemakers who speak out of peace, consideration, submissiveness, mercy, sincerity, kindness, compassion, empathy, will reap a harvest of righteousness. But those who speak out of selfish ambition, bitterness, envy, hate, those people also reap a harvest. And if we jump back a few verses, what's the harvest they reap? A forest fire. They not only start a forest fire in their own life, but they create and start a forest fire in everybody around them. So, this little thing right here, a ring snaffle bit that we use on our horses, could be, figuratively speaking, as beneficial, if not more beneficial, to us as humans. Let's say, just think of it this way. I'll leave you with this thought. Now, this particular bridle doesn't have any reins on it. This is a snaffle bit I use on my young horses when I'm just putting a bit in their mouth with no reins, so they can just learn how to hold it in their mouth and get comfortable with it. Before I ever start pulling on it, I want a horse to have this in his mouth and just wear it around. So that's why this bit doesn't have any reins on it. But I've probably got 2 or 3 others in my tack room here that don't have reins. Everything else, all the other bits in my tack room have reins on them. For what reason? Because I want my horse to learn to submit to the authority on the other end of those reins. So what if I was saying this to you today? Would you be willing to take this bit right here, put it in your own mouth, put some reins on it, and hand those reins over to God? How do you do that? Could be like this, by saying, Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, I'm going to give you the reins. So now, I put this bit in my mouth. I hand those reins to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I submit to His authority and to the things that He's asking me to do and to the things that He's asking me to say. And I learn to follow His direction in my life, much the same way that my horse learns to follow mine. Y'all have a blessed day.